It's for me. Papa.
Let's open up that bunker door.
Yeah!
Growing third arms.
I think
Set shit on fire.
oh my god, the barbecue
Set
lighter?
shit on fire.
Is that offensive to people that have 3 arms? Who knows?
No.
Do people have 3 arms? Who has 3 arms?
There might be. Yeah, I've never met anybody with 3 arms.
I mean, is the nipple an arm? It could be an arm.
No. I don't think that
You guys
goes.
still have stuff.
I think there has to be. It has to meet like a certain classification to be called an arm.
Oh, bones.
I'm not swinging my nipples in a fight.
Why
You
not?
could try, Chrissy. You could definitely try.
Milkers, you gotta make something of it.
You could like, yeah, maybe you could just like knock someone the fuck out.
Boxing
With
boobs,
my
baby.
boob. Oh my
Do
gosh,
some
boxing boobs, Chris.
Boxing
I cut the thing short. I'm so
Oh my
sorry.
god! Did you cut the intro short, Paul?
I
What the
did.
fuck? What
I'll
the?
Well,
edit
Heck.
it in.
guys,
You're the producer, so
gals.
fire yourself.
Yeah.
guys,
Do I t-
gals, non-binary pals. This is Life and Lore, the podcast that has a lot to say about nothing
Yay.
and nonsense to say about everything. Thank you, Charles. Thank you. I am your host for this episode, Token Female Chrysanthemum. You can find me as Courtesy of Chrissy most places, and Chrysanthemum with a V, not a U, on Twitter only. One string away from me and on a can is your favorite local Taurus and tourist, Paul.
I'm the only Taurus here. I just realized. Jesus Christ. Oh, God.
Sorry?
I wish
What
we
do
were
you
all
want me to do for
seasonal.
that?
That would be awesome if it's like Aries and then someone was. No Geminis. Never mind. I take
We're all
everything
4 of the
back.
elements, aren't we?
We are. Yeah, we're all 4. We're just
Beautiful.
the Earth. We are the whole
We are
entire
the
Earth,
Avatar.
especially now. We are the Avatar without the baldness.
We are the Avatar.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul. You can find me at Paul Soundbar and everything, exactly everything. I have reverted back to my old self. And on this string, which has a bunch of knots in it, and it's kind of loose.
Oops.
And it's in poop or something like that. But anyways, on this string is one of the J's, the bigger of the J, the one that is reaching over and grabbing a bottle of what? What the? Is that
Alcohol
what are
on
you
fire?
drinking? Oh my God! Is that? It's like 2 in the morning. I mean, in the afternoon.
Hey, shut the fuck up, man. I don't care what time it is. I will drink
Love that
this
sound.
and
Jesus
do
Christ.
this whatever I want. Hey, it's Justin. You can find me at a Justin Marquez with an H everywhere. I'm glad to be here. It's an honor. It's an honor to talk about the things we're going to talk about, which we're totally going to talk about. But before we talk about those things, I'm going to pass it on to my own flesh and blood. We have the same family members. It's Jason.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here. I'm reading this Audacity forum right now, and like it's gotta be the geekiest shit I've ever seen in my life. And it's pretty cool. I'm mad to be here. I'm happy to talk about what we're talking about today. So, Chrissy, what are we talking about today?
Villains. Villains is the motherfucking vibe lately with everyone. Anti-heroes. We love it.
Spooky.
And, with the, Cruella's coming out next May, and I wanted to start with the icon herself, but let's start with a little bit of life. We're having a brunch of benevolence today. What's y'all's brunch of choice?
Nice.
I mean, a cookie.
You're eating a cookie.
Yeah, I mean a galleta. It's one of those.
Give a Paul a cookie.
Literally just like a cookie.
If you give a Paul a cookie, he will eat it for brunch. Beautiful.
What about you, Jay?
I was having some chicken sausages with a little bit of greens. I cooked all this outside on the grill because it was like nice and pretty. So,
What you drinking?
And then on the side, I have it's a gin with mango juice and orange juice and a little bit of orange bitters. Good stuff. So,
Beautiful.
Cheers, everybody.
Nice.
Above and beyond. What about you, Jason? In your tummy?
Water and weed, mostly, Your Honor. I'm on the 2 W's. I had some honey bunches of oats earlier. I had some flautas, but that was like 3 hours ago or so. So yeah, I'm consistent off of the Arouse strain from Doses and the purified water from my sink.
Sponsor us, please.
Yes.
Your
Yeah,
girl
Pure
has
or
eaten-
Doses wants to sponsor. That'd be great.
That'd be awesome. All I got is half my a little bit of crust toast and half my pickle.
You didn't finish your crust.
Throw the pickle away.
It was not toasty enough.
Oh, yeah, I get it. It was just bread.
Well, it has to be burnt, crisped.
And yeah,
The pickle or the toast?
The toast. Both, yeah.
Destroy the pickle.
And I'm drinking canned Bloody Mary. That's
Oh, I thought you
spicy.
made it.
No, hell no. That's like a 12 ingredient drink. I don't have time for
Bloody
this.
Marys aren't
there's a lot of stuff in
that
it,
complicated to make, but yeah, they take a while. They're just more intense, and
There's
spicy.
a lot to it.
Tense.
You don't have to shake it, right? Do you have to shake it in some way?
You have to shake the can still, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I don't know.
That's the most effort you put into.
That's
and
pulling at my wrist. Whoa. No, you could just shake it in your mouth, right? Like you could just like pour up and be like gargle it.
You just
That's how I used to do it, baby. Directly into my throat.
God,
Nobody
don't like that
quote
sentence.
that.
Yeah, I'm like.
I was going to talk about Cruella de Vil. I don't know if anyone wants to go first. I was thinking that Paul would go first this podcast.
Jesus Christ.
Because you've been talking about talking.
That's right, Paul.
I was talking about talking.
I got a gun trained on you. What do you want to talk about?
Oh my God, is it a trained sniper? Well, I'm talking about,
Yes.
we're talking about villains, but I'm going to talk about, I guess, a very prospect. Is that a way to say it? Or is a category of villain, which is
Worldly.
the anti-hero. In my eyes of a villain. They're indecisive, but they're very strategic in what they're doing, and they have a very chaotic way of accomplishing that, especially this one, which is Magneto. Magneto is part of the X-Men series.
Aforementioned cool Jew.
Cool Jew out there, Jewish dude. Also known as Max. I was going to say Mikey. Max.
Mikey, baby.
Yeah, Mikey. All right, we're going to call him that. Mikey Eisenhart. Eisenhart. Yeah, he's affiliated with the X-Men, Quiet Council of Krakoa.
That's the entire island that the X-Men are on right now. They're having fun.
Yeah,
They're literally, I'm not joking when I say their objective is to fuck and have fun on this island. That is all the X-Men are doing right now.
Make some more mutants.
I want to be an X-Men.
Mutant member. Hell yeah. Am I right? So
that's right, baby.
Aside, just really quick, his abilities, he can control like metal, kind of like a metal bender in some way, rocks and shit like that, because there's metal everywhere. And he could fly, which is sick because he just like has a metal outfit. That's really cool too.
Is that why he can fly? He manipulates the metal on his uniform
that he's wearing. Yeah, that's why he looks so fucking like cool. And he's just like
cheat codes.
And what makes him a villain is very one-sided, because aside from the militants of the governments that are hunting down mutants, he's a villain to those folks. But he's also seen as a villain to the actual X-Men when he kind of like segues out of their decree in some way.
Okay. Also, Paul, I recognize that you inflected the word more, but you also did do air quotes on a vocal podcast.
My bad. How can I do that? Let me see. Is there a sound for that?
Use italics.
Yeah. Speaking italics.
I could do. Oh, you know what? I could do. And the government.
There we go.
That's
italics.
He's seen as a villain from these two kind of groups: the general world population, non-mutants, the actual mutants that are kind of like a neutral, or they see themselves as good, which is very subjective.
The woke kings is what I call them. My boy Cyclops and the pals.
The woke society.
Good guys.
What makes him so chaotic, or what makes him villainous in some way, is the chaos he reigns by literally just destroying non-mutant people, no problem, and mutants that go against his will, as in like trying to get them to his side.
Love that guy.
To magnetoism, magnetics.
Magnetoism.
Literally, he wants them in the Brotherhood.
He's just like, yo, join my gang. That's not really a gang, because we have a really cool layer and we go on an island and fuck. They're just like, nah.
It's like, this probably, no, never mind.
No, do it.
No, I'm not. It's bad.
Do it.
Chrissy, you started talking on a podcast and you didn't finish your train of thought. That is illegal.
I was going to say, it's similar to how people viewed the Black Panther as like dangerous, you know? Not the Marvel Black Panther, but the Black Panther.
Well,
the actual Black Panthers.
I don't want to hijack the topic because I just love Magneto so much, but he's designed to, be the Malcolm X to Professor X
so
being MLK. So no, you have the right idea. It's like his views are much more extreme than Charles, and that's the discrepancy between the two. One believes in violence, one believes in peace and politics and negotiation. But Magneto's like, nah, bitch. Like, I've seen enough of my people die.
Even though Charles chooses violence all the damn time.
Yeah. That too.
Absolutely,
Charles chooses violence all the damn time.
To quote Kitty Pryde, Professor X is a jerk, and
he's
that's
manipulative
true.
as fuck. He's toxic. He like literally tells people what to do with it within his brain. He like hijacks their brain and shit. That is
there's some consent issues.
And that's the thing, like, Magneto's like, dude, that's fucked up. Why are you in my head? Like, he took the helmet in a lot of the franchises and different comics. Like,
because as we know, metal blocks out mind powers.
Yeah, you hear that?
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin, not Led Zeppelin, Def Leppard. Metal, baby. If y'all don't get that joke, then get the fuck out of here. Yeah, I don't know why I played that song. It was the first button I pressed.
That's not Def Leppard at all.
It's not metal at all. My bad. I have like this Zach Wild guitar solo, but it's too long. It's like 14 minutes long.
Yeah, let's not play a 14-minute long soundbite.
I do have long sounds in here.
Least.
Like we were saying, like he's supposed to be an extremist to a cause. So as an extremist, you act out in violence, and it's very strategic in a lot of ways. With recruitment, manifesto, everything.
Propaganda.
Like propaganda as well. Yeah. And the thing is, he will always support the mutants. And that's what makes him a very relatable character in some way, like supporting your people. He's always for people. And we also sympathize for him because he is a member of the Jewish community and he's a survivor of the Holocaust, which is very, I have very strong feelings about that, like as survivors of the Holocaust and hearing their stories. And now that unfortunately passing away more and more, it's just very, I don't know, it's just something like as a kid, I was like, Magneto's
cool
sick.
that a character keeps it alive.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the thing, like,
Absolutely.
it's the story of it.
Especially because history loves to forget things, as people who pass away cannot tell that history anymore. That's just a thing that happens with history, unfortunately.
And
but like,
I think that's why it's so important to record those stories and, you know, to hear them out,
Like
value them.
us right now. Very important stories.
well, absolutely, no. And to not be too tangential, but in regards to like World War II and, you know, the Holocaust in general and things, I feel like I see more of the like apologetic side of things. Oh, do I really? Oh no, my internet dipped again, guys. Oh no.
Oh my god.
Level, it's over 9,000! What?
Let's do a little like re-intro or something.
Kill.
He's down.
No, it's really bad, Jay.
Magneto is really cool because like his morality is very gray. He is not a dude that's just like, I'm evil, or like, you know, gonna be a Boy Scout and like do everything for the mutants either.
You know how evil people laugh.
Yeah, that's the usual.
He's definitely not even somebody like, as much as he loves mutant kind, he's not always going to be like the Boy Scout for them either. Like he'll let a mutant die if it suits his agenda at the time. And I think it's like a very interesting way that he looks at humans, because he views humans like he kind of does like other species, like how we view animals, of like, they are not me, I am not them, and therefore I cannot connect with them and I cannot trust them to be a certain way other than just violent or, you know, non-trustworthy. So yeah, I think that's always the most compelling part of Magneto's stories, is like, ultimately the dude just wants to live in peace, but he perpetuates violence and he perpetuates cycles of aggression because he refuses to often, you know, choose peace or choose to be the quote unquote bigger person.
He's like bitter in a way.
Yeah, he chooses to, you know, lash out. And that's very much the pre-Krakoa, also known as like the current Magneto. Right now in the stories, it's really cool. He's basically the vice president of the island of Fuckfest, if you will, because Charles is, you know, like he's main bitch, as he always is, of the X-Men. Presidente Charles, and his second in command is Magneto. And Magneto is very much kind of like Darth Vader almost in a way, where he's like the enforcer, he's the muscle, he's the fucking guy. Like if there's problems, Magneto's going to sort that shit out. And I think that is such a good role for him right now in the comics, of like carrying all that traumatic past that he has, and like having all the wisdom of the experiences of battles. And he also had another island before with choosing war and choosing to, you know, actually just go along with, like, since Krakoa has happened, Magneto's been, his attitude is very much like, humans, you can't fuck with me. Like, I have all the shit I need. Like, I'm untouchable, unfuckwittable.
I have my sex island. Like, what else could you want but a sex
Exactly.
island?
What more can I ask for? All my entire family's here. We're all safe.
You gotta choose to fucking vibe sometimes.
I want that on a shirt.
Yeah. So that's why I love Magneto, and I'm glad you're talking about him.
You have to choose to vibe sometimes. I like that. Just remember that, everyone out there in the post-apocalyptic hell space.
If you ever go down that shallow road, you just have to vibe, baby. You have an off day, just vibe. Don't worry about it. Mental illness, vibes, bro. Chill.
Yeah, clean it off. You know, sometimes you gotta clean it off. And like Magneto, sometimes you gotta throw, you know, semi-trucks at people. And sometimes you gotta vibe.
Pull off some steam, vibe, baby.
Yeah, Genosha was his old island, and that place got fucking nuked.
Is that the place that's in the old 2000s movies?
No, I believe you're thinking of the real life San Francisco islands that are in the Bay Area.
Oh, Alcatraz?
Is that where they took the little bald kid?
They just go into the forest, like literally Redwood Forest in
No,
San Francisco.
Where do they take the little bald kid? And they
The San Francisco Forest.
They suppress his powers?
In the San Francisco
that was
Forest.
Alcatraz.
No, it was on
Well, they
an
go
island.
to Alcatraz because that's where he's being held. Yeah, y'all really question me on fucking X-Men 3?
Yes.
The Last Stand? This is my last stand right now. Don't ever question my X-Men knowledge.
Jason's just on his mount.
It all takes place in San Francisco, basically.
How it's like there's a lot of like biblical like metaphors and stuff.
Oh yeah, that shit slaps.
Yeah, the new Jerusalem habitat and stuff is supposed to be the island, and like that's kind of like the new Earth that was going to happen after like Revelations and after like the rapture and the tribulations and everything that's happening.
Yeah.
So there's like that atmosphere of he's going to be like an archangel that protects the new Jerusalem of people, and there's also a lot of influence with like a lot of other Eastern cultures and not mostly Western Christianity, but mostly the OG followings of like the Old Testament.
It's very prophetic.
Yeah, it's very cool, very cool.
That is really interesting. I had no idea. I don't read too much X-Men comics.
I can't read.
So this is like,
I thought you were gonna stop it there. I don't read too much.
I don't read too much. No, I just don't read
so much.
I just don't read a lot of X-Men comics, and that's really all of these. This adds so much more depth to someone who, if you on the surface level of X-Men stuff, like I've seen the movies, read a few of the comics, but like reading all the comic stuff, you get a lot more like lore. Hey, that's our thing, right? Our lore. And without having a lot of that background, Magneto, you can definitely see is like he's like a bad dude. You're like, oh, that's the bad guy. They're painting him as the bad
He's
guy.
a bad
Like,
guy,
oh, there's more.
but not bad.
But
guy.
he's not a bad. Exactly, he's not a bad. He's the bad
He's
guy,
a
but he's
bad
not
boy.
a bad guy.
He is a bad boy.
I love to
Yeah,
see
you
that kind of like nuance in villains, which is nice because I think we're all talking about villains with more nuance than just
Yeah, we got
being
some
like,
deep shit, right?
today.
Yeah.
So
Who's
Awesome.
going next?
Hopefully, I magnetized you to Magneto.
Throw up the flaming bottle.
All right. I'm throwing the Molotov.
oh
And
god,
it's hitting.
who's it hitting?
It's gonna. Oh fuck, dude! I don't know. Who's it gonna hit?
You're gonna like roll like a D3 or something.
Oh my god. Bro, who wants to go next? Oh my god.
I mean, I'm down. Throw me in. I thought you were gonna cast that line, but I'll grab that line.
I thought you were rolling
That
to
ball.
attack right now.
Yeah, and
All
there
right,
was
it's
even
just everywhere.
the impressive. Oh my god.
It is.
Good
seismic
lord.
charge field.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So, I have a couple villains to talk about today. I'll do both of them pretty quickly, even though I could probably talk about both of them forever.
I also cheated and chose 3.
Yeah, see, I was like, I won't make this too damn long, is all I'm saying. I won't make this too damn long. So, the first villain that I want to talk about is Edgar Hauer's character, Roy Beatty in Blade Runner.
Oh hell yeah!
And what was that? Sorry.
in the first Blade Runner movie.
I've never
apologize,
seen
my
any
excitement
of the,
got loud.
I've never seen any of the Blade Runners, and that's my fault. I should have watched Blade Runner by now.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I
why
mean,
didn't you watch Blade Runner? What the fuck?
highly
It's so
recommend
good.
for Chrissy and anyone who hasn't seen the Blade Runner movies. Just go watch them.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like it all the way, go watch it because I like it a lot. Do
They're
it for Justin.
definitely slower paced. The first one and the second one, the sequel, which is amazing. They're both really good, but very slow. They're noirs, and you have to be in the mood for like chilling.
You need to be in the mood for like vibey sci-fi music and conversations and like character development.
Very dialogue heavy.
And dialogue heavy, you know what I mean? And some people ain't into that. Some people are. Anywho, I'll do this as spoiler free as possible then, Chrissy.
Spoil it.
Or I can spoil it. Okay, so warning for spoilers to a movie that came out in the 1980s. Like, all right. So,
That's an invalid spoiler argument. People haven't seen every movie ever.
Did you know
yeah,
that
no,
the Titanic
okay.
stinks as well?
I'll
Trying.
amend. Yeah,
That's real life.
That's real life.
That's
Blade
real
Runner
life.
isn't real.
Yeah, Blade Runner isn't real. So,
Real life experience.
warning,
right there.
spoilers for Blade Runner ahead. Go watch the movie and turn this podcast off right now. Watch it, then turn the podcast on
Hey,
again. Love you. Rutger Hauer plays a character named Roy. This character is known as a replicant, which are essentially like cyborg humans that were created for the express purpose of serving humanity in some way. They are, they're androids. They look just like humans. They live 12 to 15 years max, which will come up in a... They are super strong, and they're used mainly in like off-Earth colonies to like work on stuff. They're like, but they're essentially kind of like slaves if you were to think of them in they look just like humans, but they aren't. People consider them not.
Major philosophy question.
There's the thing, and that's the whole thing of the movie. The whole thing of Blade Runner in general is like, what is human? Because these things, these creatures look like humans, they think like humans, they act like humans. They're just,
what is
incredibly strong and incredibly, they're essentially the same but not. You know, they can live in like super harsh conditions. Anyway, Rutger Hauer's character, Roy, is like the leader of these rogue replicants that have kind of essentially that they've gained sentience. You know, they're usually these robots that do nothing, but they've gained sentience. They believe that they should have all the rights of humans, but they also believe that they should live longer.
My worst nightmare.
That's kind of his whole thing, is because, you know,
they still have like a expiration date though.
Yeah,
way,
exactly.
right?
And that's the thing, is because like they're designed to die at a certain point.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's in the actual purpose of them, but I always felt like because they were dying is why they were getting a bit unhinged. I'm not sure if that's like actually canon or the message or the subtext. To me, always that mortality and age played into their motive.
That would make so much sense. Some kind of like existential crisis.
That's what it was.
Exactly.
It was supposed to be metaphoric, and the thing that they touched on in like a comic, and then also like the behind the scenes, like explaining the characters.
I didn't read that comic, Paul. I didn't read that comic.
Yeah, there's a comic, and then there's like a cartoon, like an anime kind of thing about the 2015, like what they were talking about, what happened.
Yeah, there's Blackout. I think it's 2022.
Yeah,
Blackout.
2022. Yeah.
I think there's another short too.
They were talking about how it's like a metaphor for like the existentialism, knowing you're going to die, because they actually don't have an expiration date. They could just change their body parts in some way, and they could just live forever. But the idea of it not existing in a way of like kind of like altered carbon, you just depersonalize, and that's kind of like what they were thinking about. Like, I'm just not the same person or thing anymore. So they'd rather just live out a life, basically, like a human.
To be able to want to have the opportunity to, which is an interesting one about this character, which is why I like him. The two characters that I've chosen have that theme of like, they believe that they're good guy of the story. They believe that they're willing to do whatever they want, but they believe inherent, like to the core of their self, what they're doing is a good thing, or what they're doing is right. And even if they don't see it as a good, you know, morally a good thing, they say, oh, this is what is right for me, for the people that follow me, for the thing that I do, whatever. I love villains who think that they're the good guys, or villains who have some strong, you know, pull, or the good guys for what they're doing. Kind of like Magneto. He thinks he's the good guy most of the time. Or he's like...
My characters also believe that. And I think that's such a good motivation and good writing for how we were supposed to sympathize with the characters.
That's what I mean. Like, lately, that's the fucking vibe, though. Villains are the vibe. With all the new Disney movies coming out, just following the villains and their backstories. And people want to know, like, why are they bad? Because we sympathize. We are also bad. You know, like...
That's why I like origin stories, because it's like, dang, that's how they got bad. I could kind of relate. They killed my pup. I could relate to that.
I too.
Because like
John Wick is not
I was talking about John Wick. He's the bad guy in some sense to someone.
He does.
Yeah, to other folks.
Killing people.
Right?
Those are someone's family members.
Yeah, he does bad guy
I always think about that.
To be in the criminal enterprise.
That's true. They are also bad guys, though.
It's after one of the henchmen dies, and then they have to like go tell the family that like the henchman, your father is dead. And like
the SNL skit where they think at the phone call.
He got blasted off with a laser ray.
He was collateral damage for the Avengers. Sorry.
Yeah, we never talk. I appreciate that skit because it's something that is not really brought up in movie, which is why I liked, as a side little bar. Welcome to Life and Lore, everybody. The podcast of sidebars. Scene in WandaVision. We all seen WandaVision with the post-snap stuff, but from the humans' perspective, like when everyone started coming back.
It is wild, yeah.
That's what I was thinking the entire time. Like the Avengers, like, yay, we traveled through time and beat up Thanos and brought everybody who immediately got disappeared back.
What about the collateral damage?
Yeah, like what happens when you reintroduce, you know, which is what I love about this new phase of Marvel is that they're talking about like what happens when you reintroduce 4 billion people back onto Earth after they just disappeared for 5 years.
They totally displaced all those people, and they're like, "Oh, I ended up in an apartment that actually belongs to someone else." Aunt May. Aunt May.
Aunt May.
Yeah, that like organizes a thing for like the community for all the people that got displaced.
Oh,
wow. Need to find new homes and stuff. And there's a bunch of programs for that. And I'm like, dude, I honestly didn't think of that. And there's a lot of people that came back and they don't have the rights. And then there's borders to send people back.
Isn't Aunt May kind of anti-Spider-Man as well in the beginning? She's not.
No, she's like...
it depends what version you're reading, but I mean, the Tom Holland one, she knows if you watch Spider-Man Far From Home, she's like totally on board.
Oh, the new ones are good. The new ones are fun.
I know.
But I'm still I'm a Tobey Maguire guy at heart. I can't say, I'm not going to say I'm not a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man kind of guy, because I am, and I will be forever, even though they're kind of trash.
Nobody can change that.
No, that's a hill I'll die on. They're great.
Back to that.
I also don't think anybody's infringing on your rights to enjoy Tobey Maguire.
Appreciate that. Just making sure I don't. In this tumultuous post-apocalyptic America, I have to stand up aggressively for everything I believe in, and I can never have nuance or a debate without taking it personally.
Never have nuance.
Yeah.
I feel like that. I'm like, dude, I'm personally hurt.
Yes, and see, that is okay. I don't want to get too deep into that because we're getting further and further away from the thing we were originally talking about.
We're in many sidebars from the sidebar at this point.
But anyway, I long for people to be able to debate, and I know people still do debate. It just seems like people take it a lot more personally now when you start debating about something. Don't let your feelings get hurt. Just debate some
Blade
stuff.
Runner.
But if it's problematic, call that shit out. Blade Runner. So yeah, that's kind of the short and long. The short and long. I've introduced the character. So his whole thing is that he wants to live longer. His whole thing, you know, he has this beautiful, no spoilers as well, but he has this like, geez, how do I not spoil this movie when I talk about it?
He has an ending monologue that is very beautiful.
Yes, it's the monologue, and then you realize it all comes back together. After all, he's murdered people. He murders the creator, his creator, like he murders his father, but also like his god in a way, because this person is like the only reason he exists, and
even God is mortal.
Yeah,
and he comes to plead.
It really like poses the question, like, what does it mean to destroy your creator?
Yeah, he destroys his own creator. He has all these existential questions, and he, upon destroying his creator, also eliminates the only way he would actually have been able to achieve his goal of living longer. It shows that he's full of this like passion, and he's unhinged, and at the end, he has this really amazing monologue after like the final fight where he's talking about all the things that he's seen in his incredibly short life. And that, you know, it humanizes him so well because you see like the fear and the pain, and like that this cold, heartless robot for the whole movie has become this incredibly human, this in ways charismatic and very drawing personality. Literally the minute before he dies, you feel all this sympathy, and over the course of the movie, you start kind of gaining that sympathy more and more as you see each replicant. They become more and more human as you see them.
Yeah. And I would say that they're never somebody that you actually support. They're just somebody that you like and appreciate seeing more of. Because I never find myself being like...
It's someone that you like and subscribe to.
Exactly. Much like you should do the Life and Lore. Like and subscribe, but don't support. No. The characters are just so well adapted that... And the actors do an amazing job of like making themselves feel so uncanny. That's the other thing about these characters, is you can tell that they are not quote unquote humans. You know, they're not people that have ordinary lives like you and I, where we go to work or we go to school or we have family. Like these things are created for labor, to exploit them for labor. They have no sense of soul or personality beyond that. And so when they try to find that soul and personality, the way that it's acted is just so, it's like there's a glass layer between the character and the humanity. But it's just, it's really something special. And I think that's why Blade Runner is so amazing.
On that note, like that same exact note, I had a philosophy professor who brought up that question. If technology gets so smart, do they deserve rights as a person? Another student brought up, well, I would put myself in their shoes. He argued, well, you would never be in their shoes because they don't have souls.
Mm-hmm. They don't. They quite literally don't know what it's like to be human.
So it's not like a different place.
Exactly.
But they know what it's like to be themselves.
Mm-hmm. The Turing test could be its own whole podcast. It's wild.
The whole beginning of the movie, Chrissy, just the beginning of the movie is, it introduces its whole thing. And that's one of my favorite sci-fi tropes, but also specifically like cyberpunk tropes.
It's almost not even
the questioning
of... It's almost real life.
And that's what I love about especially the cyberpunk subgenre of sci-fi, is that it does deal with real life stuff. Exactly. It's more us traveling, and even if it is traveling through the stars, it's not like discovering aliens, doing all these things. It's a lot of like very human issues that actually affect us. And it's the commentary on them, putting it in like a gigantic, crazy lens of like a hardcore futuristic city or futuristic society, knowing that they still have those problems. And this one in particular being like, the question of, like your professor said, Chrissy, the technology becomes so advanced, it begins to become sentient and thinks about itself as its own entity. Does it deserve? How do we coexist with that? Because we created it. And so if it's created, like it's that God complex, it's existing. So what do we do with that? And I love that shit. And that's why he attracts me as a character so much.
It's deep cinema, man. It's like, it's the peak. Like, here's a question, and you're going to be thinking about that question. And from this character, even committing crimes, you don't know where you fall on the fence of answering that.
Yeah, and I love that.
And honestly, there is no definitive answer in that movie of like, yes, android good or yes, android bad. or, you know, like we never should have created this. Like, if anything, I think that's the theme you can pull from Blade Runner and Roy of like, maybe we just shouldn't create this situation in the first place. Maybe we should just like stay hands off of that, because clearly there's some issues.
Same with Jurassic Park.
And
Jurassic Park. It's not a question of
too busy thinking whether or not you could and whether or not if you should.
I was gonna tell them how I see as like reoccurring conundrum in society, or going into like eugenics and stuff. I believe, or euthanasia,
like Logan's Run or something like that.
Yeah, where it's like, if you're not utility to society or sentient in some way, then you shouldn't deserve to exist in some way. And that has been a recurring conversation for the mentally ill or mental conditions, and that is just a reskinned version of trying to change the optics to a futuristic cyberpunk, because this is the next thing in technology to kind of like derail the conversation. But it's been a recurring conversation because people were the utilities, people were the workers. And if you're not able to work in some way and be sentient, as in like responsive to them, at least to their standards, of course they are actual people and they deserve to live,
was not
obviously.
an argument.
And
but it is
that's kind of like how
we have laws around it, right?
Exactly. At what point do you deserve to be a person, be living in society? Because a lot of people are what they call, which is very problematic, functional. And that is extremely like already ableist and how it's geared into our society. And that's kind of like what they were talking about in Blade Runner and all these cyberpunk things. If you're not upgraded, if you are not a utility, or if you're not sentient, as in you care about other things, think about how many humans just don't give a fuck about people. Like, does that mean if you have empathy, does that mean you're human? If you have feelings, does that mean you're human? There's a lot of people that are neurodivergent that just don't have feelings, or artistic that just don't have certain feelings.
They're still human beings.
And that's kind of like what I get out of that whole conundrum.
Wow, yeah, that's an even deeper layer that I have not thought about that, Paul. That is fantastic. Like that extra extra layer that goes through it, and is like, I mean, you see so many, especially in those genres, so many
social injustices,
all these comparisons, and it just goes deeper and deeper into comparisons of actual humanity. It's always a mirror, and I love that kind of stuff.
And that's what gets us thinking.
That's what gets us thinking, and it just got us thinking. Bodies. We really be thinking right now.
We were thinking. We were
thinking
for a
second.
To scoot along, it's another super powerful villain. This one's from an anime, so I'll keep it short. Here it comes. He's a great. I must give a big spoiler warning for this one. I care about this spoiler much more than Blade Runner, to be completely honest. I'll spoil Blade Runner a little bit, but this one, if you're listening right now and you've not seen the show Hunter x Hunter, turn this podcast off right now, please. I beg you.
Me, a person that has not seen Hunter x Hunter.
Oh
do I turn this off?
Turn me off.
How accessible?
Yeah. Jeez.
Ooh, turn you off? I'll do it right away.
Man, this one's hard.
To be honest with you, if this
no poop sounds.
If this anime has more than 40 episodes, no way in hell I'm watching.
Yeah, exactly.
It has not commit myself.
It has what 140, like.
Oh hello, baby.
Yeah, so I have to ask you guys: do you want a spoiler-free version or a non-spoiler-free version of this?
I think you should go as spoiler-free as possible. That's kind of my policy on every podcast ever.
Baby.
I want spoilers
because you're chaotic.
I am a car. Give me spoilers
before I start to read them. I don't want to.
I gave a spoiler.
Yeah,
chaotic.
Yeah.
I read the reviews.
Disappointing enough. I will not be disappointed by this fucking book.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's true. I don't want to invest 500 fucking pages and then I get to the end and I'm like, oh
yeah, that sucked.
But then again, I wouldn't probably get that far in the book if it sucked before at the end. Anyway, light spoilers? Question mark?
Light spoilers.
I'll do light spoilers. Fuck it. Okay. Second character I want to talk about is his name is Meruem from Hunter x Hunter. He is this is a deep one. This is a deeper one. He is a superpowered insect that is also a king that takes over a country that has the powers of literally a god.
Same.
That sounds like a messy timeline.
Yeah,
how relatable.
Oh, and here's where that comes in. So, it's more of just the wonderful villain is a wonderful tragedy, especially because he is once again a villain who believes he is the good guy. Mm-hmm. From his perspective, if you look at the world from his perspective, he's right. In this show, tiny brief interlude to Hunter x Hunter anime. Everyone has like super powerful magical powers, and essentially, like as you train and get stronger, and those classic anime tropes of like if you hone yourself strong enough, you can empower yourself with this like supernatural power that will only get stronger the more you work at it, the more you understand about yourself and like the world around you, the stronger you get. This character is one of the strongest characters in the world that we know of, at least, that can control this power. And he ends up going up against another character who is the strongest human in the world. And they duke it out. We're getting there.
Strongest bug versus strongest
of course.
Or strongest person?
Strongest
bug
versus strongest person. But okay, so and the thing is, like, the only way I can describe, he looks like Frieza. He literally looks like Frieza.
Oh god, so he looks like a little fucking.
He's like a little alien. He's like a little alien.
Freezer.
He's a short king. I think I saw somewhere that he's like 5'7" or like 5'6". Like he's a short. He's
Jeff Bezos height.
Yeah, he's like a short king, which is wonderful.
Oh my god.
And to cut a long story short about Meruem, he is the apex predator of a species of like otherworldly creatures known as chimera ants. These chimera ants are, you find out from like, they're like otherworldly. They're basically aliens on Earth. And their only purpose is to hyperbreed and hyper evolve. They're supposed to evolve as quickly as possible. That's their whole thing.
Hyperbreed. Okay,
and
so
hyperbreed. That's the thing, is they have to like spread.
They be fucking.
They got to spread. You know what I mean? Like the Chimera Ant Queen comes in, her soldiers put up a tower for her, and then she just makes Chimera Ants. That's her whole thing until she makes a king.
Dang.
And that's their whole setup, is like each Chimera Ant Queen exists only to make a king, because the kings exist to then do the process again across the entire world. That's their whole shtick. So we get to Meruem. You're thinking, how can this guy be redeemable? And it's like, he's not, but you feel for him. He's a fucking asshole. So he's born. He immediately, within like a day of existing, knows that he is probably the strongest thing on Earth. And he's like, yeah, we just got to take over the Earth. Like, I am more powerful. Just looking around, I'm more powerful than everything here. Bring me all the humans. I'm going to eat as many as I can to get stronger. And then I'm going to grow up and I'm going to take over the world. And then we'll just be Chimera ants. Simple, yeah, it's simple. And for him, he sees it as simple because the ant views humans as ants.
I see. So it's one of those things where like, I squish them, I am superior.
Yeah, and it's not even, it doesn't even go that deep for him. He views them as like cattle, or as like livestock, like how we view a chicken.
Oh.
You know, he's like, oh, you're just a means to an, I need this.
Yeah, does he eat them? Or
yeah, he eats their brains.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
so they feel
and he finds out that the especially tasty brains that give him more powers are the ones of people who have the stronger power than the fighters of the world, you know, the main character, but the main fucking characters. That's how they get there. You know what I mean? Like, he's attracted to the power. As through a wild series of events, you see this cold, undaunting figure. Our main characters are encountering these cold, undaunting figures, and that's basically how all the Chimera ants are. They look kind of human, or they look like animals. They have no, you know, they don't have that. They don't have the humanity. And as the Chimera ants keep evolving, they use some of the human DNA that they, you know, from humans, and they crossbreed with them to just essentially take over any DNA that they can. That's their thing.
Would they eat these hybrid people, like these crossover things, or no?
Oh,
would they, like, because they're like half human, so like.
And so that's where things start getting interesting, is because their human soul starts taking over kind of even that. It starts to bleed through in some places. Leads to Ultimate God-Man. Ultimate God-Man is the strongest of them all, but he has a little bit of human in him. And so as things happen, you begin seeing his humanity go through. They introduce a character who, because he's like a super genius, he's smart. He can like figure out his thing is to play like board games when he's bored. He's this like super powerful monster, but he plays like board games, and he hires like people from across the world, like chess champions and game champions, and he beats them all. Like, he's so strong, he's bored because no one can beat him. And so he's just like filling his time with all this bullshit.
That's like, c'est la vie. Wait, so did you say chess?
Yes, he plays chess. He's a monster who plays chess. Because he's so bored. He's so bored with being so powerful. He needs something to be like. He needs something new to conquer. So he finally brings in someone who beats him at chess. And this is where his humanity begins to show, because originally he threatens to kill this person. It's like this little woman named Komugi. She is like a chess master, a shogi. It's like a type of chess. But she beats him, and he cannot beat her. This is when his arc starts to change. He's this ultra powerful creature. He cannot beat her no matter what he does. She is like just better at him. At first he threatens her, and he's like, I'm gonna, you know, if you lose to me, I'll tear your arm off or something like that, or I'll just kill you right here. And instead, he never does.
Of like beating you?
Like he just
likes that.
And through this they form like a relationship, and you see this like human bond. happening with them, and you're like, wait a minute, wasn't this the scary god guy? Why is he having a slice of life chess thing? The fuck?
That's what I'm thinking, dude. Like, why does he wants to have his own like HBO? I mean, not HBO, fucking HDTV.
His own HGTV show,
whatever,
exactly.
Yeah.
The room rent or wife swap, but with giant monster man.
Oh my god.
So I'll fast forward along. That's the hard part with this thing. Is it's dense, especially because y'all haven't seen the show. It's a lot harder to say the thing. But I'm trying to not make this too long. So you're starting to see these human elements of him. At the very end, he and the strongest human again fight each other to the death. They like go off on their own little journey. It's like very honorable because like he sees the old man who's like the strongest person on earth, and he's like, oh wow, you might be a challenge to me. Let's see. He recognizes the power, the respect. They go to this place to duel. They fucking duke it out. It's cool as fuck, yeah, because you finally see him at full power. You're finally seeing this old man who's been through the entire show with you at full power, and you're like, oh, that's why he's in charge. He's really strong.
But he's an old man, so like he gets stronger with age, or
yes,
like,
he only got stronger with age because the whole point.
So when he dies, he's just everything.
The only yeah, I think I think on the wiki they say that he's like 140 or 150 years old. He's like super old because he's honed himself so much that he can like live longer because the power like flows through him or whatever. He's like old sage. So they're fucking each other up. It comes time for this spoiler part. Sorry everybody, I can't not say this or else it won't make the sad part. The old man loses. He beats the shit out of Meruem. Meruem beats the shit out of him, and at the very end, the old man is basically going to lose. So he sets off a nuclear bomb that is in his heart.
Yo, that is a fail-safe. Like, why?
The government put a nuclear bomb in his body that if he were to lose to the monster, he has to set the nuke off and then kill the monster.
He's loyal to the government then.
And there's a lot more commentary going on with this part of the manga and the anime about like over militarization. Like even the country that the Chimera Ants take over is basically like a North Korea like nod to, because they're like a super militarized like dictatorship country. And all these other countries are like, fuck it, let's just nuke them. But then everyone else is like, wait, but there's civilians. We can't do that. It's like, no, fuck it, nuke them.
Collateral damage.
Take over the world, you know?
Yeah, sometimes.
And
sometimes you just got it.
At the end of the day, they nuke him. They nuke the fuck out of him.
He nukes himself, baby.
His like he has some like minions who like give some of their power to him. And after the nuke goes off, Meruem's like super fucked up. He's almost dead. And he gets revived. Upon revival, he has this like flash memory through some certain things that happen to where he remembers that he like has this connection with this human. And so he's like a changed man. Like he's experienced death. Yeah. And in fighting with this person, he like felt fear for the first time ever fighting the old man. And that like made him more human. He is now this person who went from being total horrible monster, scary guy. He's still a bad guy. But you see this transformation of someone gaining their own humanity after not understanding what it was at all. And he's like, he views humans in a different way afterwards. And his story ends from there finally understanding that what he did was wrong, or not even wrong. He was just like, oh, I get it. You know, I fucking get it now. You know, there's more to this world than just me. The nuclear bomb gave him super cancer that kills him. And he dies when he's 2 weeks old.
No.
All right.
Like,
damn.
That's Meruem. I don't know how to not go deep for that dude. Mad fucking respect for Frieza lookalike.
That shit's crazy.
Dude is an evil bug.
Yes.
Likes a
chess player.
Has a nuclear bomb. Chess
old
player.
guy has a bomb.
Oh, old guy has a bomb. Old dude has a bomb. He beats up old dude because evil people are better, I guess, at fighting. Oh, he gets and
dies at 2 weeks old.
At 2 weeks old. It's wonderful. It's so wild.
Oh, he's only 2 weeks old. So he's only been alive for 2 weeks.
And he's already like story.
Yes, he's been alive for 2 weeks. He's already like the strongest. It's because these creatures are like ascended beings, like aliens. So he's like 2 or 3 weeks old, but he's stronger than the strongest human in the world already. That's why they were trying to kill him in the first place.
Beautiful.
But then this thing that has I guess the reasoning why I like this character for all the weird, dark shit that goes on with him is because something that has no reason to recognize humanity in the first place, like learns to respect it over a course of things happening. And I just love that kind of something that has no reason for you to be able to feel like, oh no, for you actually feel for, and sometimes, and it's like, I should hate you. You should be like a bad person only. But then the more you see him, the more it humanizes him. You're like, oh, like from your perspective, you're just like you're just surviving. You're just existing, you know? You're just a dude who loves a chess player. So that's Justin in this wild ass shit.
Bro. Yeah, that last one got me, so I'm like, oh shit.
I know.
The other two are awesome, and I'm like,
it's hard to bring people into that one. There's a lot of context.
Yeah, I think it's just the context of it. I'm just like, he's a fucking 2-week-old bug.
Yes.
But then bugs only live for like a little bit, so I'm like, all right, I guess.
Yeah, he's like 2 or 3 weeks old, but he's like fucking G as fuck. Tossing up in the air, I'm lighting this Molotov on fire, and I'm throwing it at Jason's wall. And then I'll throw you a
on fire.
Dude, I'm sorry. Here's a water bottle.
Someone save the bears! Save the bears!
Why did I do that?
Water doesn't put out gas fires very well.
Why did I do that?
Bears,
We really should have a fire
bears
extinguisher.
running around on fire.
I feel like if we were to get fire coded before the apocalypse had happened, we'd been prepared for this. So
yeah, but the apocalypse happened, so fuck them.
We gotta time travel to before the apocalypse and record an episode sometime.
Yeah, I mean, we should do that. I would love to try to build a time machine.
Segue into my villain topics is it's a tragedy. And all of my characters are tragic heroes.
We love them.
And it sounds like you guys gave examples of tragic heroes too. And to explain the trope, if you were not familiar with it, a tragedy strikes a character and they're forced through this traumatic incident to like react. And you get people like Batman, where, you know, he wants to fight for justice. And sometimes you get like Syndrome for being a crying ass, whining baby, you know, like a superhero symbol.
Yeah.
Get over your trauma.
Becoming a bad guy, you know? So that's an example of a tragic villain or tragic hero.
Yeah.
The tragedy strikes and then they are changed forever.
Yeah, inaccessibility to therapy.
Yeah, that too. Magneto is definitely tragic, obviously, because he just wants his people to stop being fucking killed. And that is an allegory for Black folks in the 60s when Stan Lee was writing comics.
Yeah, and neurodivergence.
I'm talking about an actual black person that cares about black people, Eric Killmonger from the Black Panther.
Wow, yes.
In 2018.
Great.
So
As soon as you mentioned
MCU
you wanted
version.
to talk about him, dude, I got so gassed. This is such a cool fucking character. Like,
Yeah,
Yes.
I totally forgot I told you guys, but I'm still just as excited to talk about it. I'm talking about the MCU version specifically here. The comics one is a little less nuanced, and this is just really good writing by the entire Black Panther production.
plus that one isn't
he's-
hottie Bo Body Michael B. Jordan.
That's true. Michael Jordan, good looking dude. So this character, Eric Killmonger, just Eric, before he becomes Killmonger, he grows up in Oakland with his dad, who is on assignment from Wakanda,
baby.
the Afro-futuristic city. And they're chilling in Oakland. Eric's dad and him realize how bad black people have it in America. Who would have thought? And
Not me.
so
I've never been profiled by the police more than 4 times this year.
A pretty low number, bro.
This year.
This week.
Him and his dad are pissed that Wakanda government and leadership would let, you know, so many people, there are 2 billion black people under oppressive rule, and Wakanda has tools to liberate people, but they choose not to. They choose to, you know, stay to their own governing populace, and that's very controversial, understandably so.
Yeah, because Wakanda has all this cool shit, all this powerful. They got missiles and flying shit and vibranium. Like they have so many
They
things.
got everything there.
They don't have poverty. Like they literally have this like utopian perfect society.
They have universal healthcare.
Yeah, and they won't like.
That's a metaphor for it, because it's like I think they don't want to get into the white people's ordeal using your technology and being exploiting other people and leading to imperialistic or colonialism, and that's why they kind of stick to themselves.
I can totally see
they're
how
like, we don't want to be
Wakanda
colonials.
is like is representative of like the United States presence in the world, right? Because like we just start poking our nose into things when things are like, oh, no, those are our interests.
No,
like, don't do that. You know,
I feel like they want to be opposite or in some way, or even like, you know, native people of an island, and people think they're secluded. They don't have technology. No, they have their own means of knowledge and technology and stuff like that. So they don't want to go into the trope of being like the white person or the colonialist. So they're like, we're going to stick to ourselves and help our own community and people, even though we know we're flourishing in our own way. Whereas other people, like, you know, from the outside perspective of Killmonger is just like, yo, dude, we could help so many people, but then it's getting to the point of the extremists. I'm so sorry.
I know, dude. You're hitting the nail on the head of like why it's such a very controversial subject, because some people feel that no, we have no reason to extend our supplies to others because that can bring conflict when we're already living in this utopia. And that's where Wakanda is at the beginning of the Black Panther movie. Whether that changes, we'll have to watch and find out.
With Black Panther, which has the second one has a weird title, I think. really weird.
It doesn't have a title officially yet.
I thought it did. I saw it.
How's that go? How we doing that? How's that going down?
Yeah, R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman.
Rest in peace
We'll see what happens with
our
Black
king.
Panther 2, but we're not talking about Black Panther 2.
We're talking about
Black Panther 1. Angered, Eric joins the U.S. military, which is, a little ironic because he's angry at the American government and, most Western governments for oppressing the black population. The irony of it is that he learned skills in the special forces of the U.S. military that, he couldn't have learned anywhere else. He uses those abilities to plot to overthrow Wakanda so that he could liberate the black population through means of violence. And that's where, the villain issue comes in, because I think we all can sympathize with understanding that, hey, minorities don't deserve to be treated like trash. They should be treated equal or given equity to for the things that they've had to endure. Again, that's not hugely popular opinion, heavily debated in America and, all the world, really. Killmonger gets there. He overthrows T'Challa temporarily, and then T'Challa comes back because he is hero. He is good guy. He's the Black Panther.
Yeah, because he's the motherfucking king, man.
Eric Killmonger, no shit, because it's a Marvel movie and the good guy always wins, except for Infinity War. Killmonger, in his last moments, he decides to die a free man instead of living in chains because, Wakandan technology could easily heal his wounds, but he wants to live free because his entire journey is about saying fuck you to, captivity of the American lifestyle of, the black experience of living as a minority and not getting the same opportunity. And he realizes that's wrong. And we realize that's wrong. He just chooses to go about it violently. And he wants to wage a race war, basically, globally. And no doubt that would bring needless violence to both communities. That's where Killmonger's divisive. And T'Challa realizes that he is right, that if Wakanda has resources that can help people across the world, they should be helping people across the world in, peaceful ways and through negotiations. That's why politics are important and why we have to keep politics in mind of it matters who our foreign affair leaders are. It matters that stuff because we have medicine that other parts of the world don't have or may not have access to. Like we're seeing that with the COVID vaccine of distribution of like, we've had to help out other countries that don't have, the manufacturing needs for it and whatnot.
And already know damn well, in much like in all comic book things, when someone with power helps someone with not power, some assholes here are going to lord that shit over people in like 10 or 20 years where it's like, blah, 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 we made the vaccine. It's like, no, the world made the vaccine, damn it.
It was a global effort.
World made the vaccine, damn it.
That's exactly the thing that we have to keep in mind. But that's why I think Black Panther 1 does an awesome job of the villain.
Absolutely.
We sympathize with Eric because he was failed by society. He doesn't deserve that. He's orphaned because T'Chaka killed his brother. That's a weird scene. I'm not going to say it's a great scene where he kills his brother. And it's just like, you just killed your fucking brother, dude.
Yeah, but it's
problematic.
It's because of that in itself has its own like nuance, right? Like, and T'Chaka, even when he's, in the afterlife or the ancestral plane, like he laments over that moment. He regrets doing that, but he also was doing what, and that's the whole thing for T'Challa, right? He was doing the thing the king would do, which T'Challa realizes is like, oh, maybe
it's about sins of the father. Yeah,
I can't I can't do that. I can't just be the king of Wakanda. I need to be like my own person and do what is right, do the right thing.
And that's why Black Panther is so good, because it deals with issues that are not just black issues, but like sins of the father issues and how we should have a global reach out and stuff like that too. But specifically Killmonger, he grows up in a loveless world because he's orphaned and he's black and he doesn't have great opportunities. So the military is an escape for that, but the military radicalizes him too. And then he just chooses violence, all of that. We get it. We get why he's doing things the way he is, even if we don't agree with them. And that's my first character. He's definitely a tragic one. Very sympathetic reasons. My next dude I'm going to talk about, Mr. Freeze from the DC.
Not Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze.
No, I do not acknowledge Arnold Schwarzenegger as a governor, as Mr. Freeze, as any role.
Oh my God, come on.
Do you acknowledge Danny DeVito as the Penguin?
Yes.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
he is
the Penguin. I do not acknowledge Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mr. Freeze, I'm going to talk about from the animated universe of Batman, the animated series, but he's kind of pretty similar across the board, whether it be comics, movies, or whatnot. I wrote my favorite intro line to Mr. Freeze is, Victor Freeze is a wife guy.
Oh.
Period.
He's a wife guy. Oh,
he's a wife guy.
simp.
Like, he posts like shit about his wife on Facebook, and he posts pictures about his wife and shit.
Are you serious?
That's what Victor Freeze is. He's a wife guy, and his sole intent is that his wife has a terminal illness, so he cryogenically freezes her to, you know, preserve her body. And it's like, cute. Damn, you know, like that's a hard position of like, one, your wife is nobody deserves a sick wife.
Yeah.
Like if your partner is sick, I think we all know how our protective instinct is like, I want this person to be better. We don't understand that. Yeah. Two, he feels the responsibility that he has to find the cure for her illness because her fictional illness in this case, like it has no cure. It has no treatment that makes sense. So the only way to preserve her life is to not have her be alive. And so she's frozen in time. And like, that's really sad because then they can't spend time together and he's living a life for somebody else. And he's struggling with that because any failure towards healing her is a failure both towards himself and her. So it's very sad. So he becomes very radicalized to try to find a cure for her. And he chooses violence through means of ice.
Ice,
it's in his name.
He's brutally taking,
it is in his name.
Yeah, he's brutally taking the tools that he needs, whether it be money or resources.
FREE.
F-C-E.
Yeah. I don't have much to say about Victor Freeze because like we all kind of get the idea of like, yeah, you do anything to protect your loved one. But I think that he's a very cool tragic villain because we all get it. You know, his partner is in jeopardy and he chooses violence. That's kind of the theme of all these characters. They choose violence.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, what
100%.
Choose violence more and more,
vilifies him? What is the violence? Who is the violence against? Like, he's not like a mobster or anything. Is he like robbing banks? Where's his income from? That's the thing. Like, where is the actual income?
Yeah, I mean, the issue is that he requires more. He requires more research. He requires more time, and he's mortal himself.
Okay, so like, but who are the crimes against? Is it against the people or just Batman or like what?
Everybody, the entire city, the society. So if he needs money, he's going to go rob a bank and blow shit up and cause property destruction and all this shit. And like, you can't be having that in a healthy society, you know? Like, get alone, Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, no.
Imagine if Batman just helped him with his research.
So exactly that. That's the thing is that Victor Freeze is also kind of prideful. Like, he doesn't accept help because he doesn't want to mess it up, and outside help could potentially jeopardize the cure for his wife. There are certain stories where Bruce Wayne, like being a fucking billionaire, he's able to fund research and get a cure for Nora. And there's, I believe in the Arkham games, Batman, under the guise of Batman and not Bruce Wayne's like, hey, like, I can help you. And Victor Freeze is like, fuck you, I'm gonna do this shit on my own.
Yeah, and then you fight in one of the coolest boss fights, like in that game.
Oh, dude, it adapts to your play style. Yeah. It's terrifying.
Because like
you hide in that air vent, he freezes the air vent.
Yeah, because like it was one of the first times. Oh, not one of the first times, but like it's a very good show of like in video games when like that kind of thing happens when it adapts. Because obviously the people that made the game made the boss fight, and they know damn well what you've been doing to exploit all the other characters in the game. So they're like, no, we're gonna fuck with you. Like, yeah,
what if you couldn't do any of those things? It's really cool. But Victor Freeze is a really intelligent character, and ultimately his hubris and his unwillingness to, you know, like have an open mind are the issues why he's so tragic. And his, you know, he doesn't deserve that situation that he got into, but he deserves, you know, to be punished for the crimes that he does. And then we're moving to my next character, which by far is my favorite because it's fucking Star Wars. Any excuse to talk about Star Wars, you know, I'm talking about goddamn Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Is obviously Darth Vader / Anakin Skywalker. From the bat, like, homie is kind of tragic. Like, he's a slave with no dad.
Nope.
He's just got a single mom doing her best. He's also a slave.
The child of the... No, not the corn. No, children of the corn kind of thing. No.
You started off so strong. You started off so strong with that one.
Like,
you were like, here's the idea, and then you just like...
Shmi was impregnated by the fucking...
A child that Metacorians.
I was really trying to...
No more. This is canceled.
No. I got it. Shmi was impregnated by the fucking midichlorians. Okay, that's all. Fuck.
Yep. Bacteria impregnated Shmi.
That's
Wait,
it.
what?
Yeah.
So
it's like an STI.
What?
Have you seen The Phantom Menace?
Yeah, it's kind of like a Jesus thing going on.
Okay, so Anakin doesn't have a dad. The Force was born with Anakin. So Shmi his mom just becomes pregnant.
Some Mary
and then she has Anakin.
Dumb.
Yes.
Yep.
It's definitely a Jesus thing. It's a Jesus thing.
Sorry,
no, I hate when they bring Christianity into it.
Yeah.
It's always the play. It's Joseph Campbell's the storytelling cycle of the hero's journey. That whole thing, because like George Lucas was like a super into like the Campbell kind of like trope of that, and he really liked the Jesus Messiah figure and stuff. And they did that in Dune. They did that in a bunch of stuff, and it's like so overplayed now. Don't give me some Jesus. Give me some fucking alien. Dude,
How did
like,
you get angry all of a sudden? Like, why are you radicalized against the Chosen One prophecy?
It's so played out.
Vader's not even the fucking chosen one of Star Wars, and I can talk about that for an hour another time.
I agree.
Vader's arc is that he is born in slavery. He is liberated by wizards. He becomes a wizard. He kills all the wizards, and then he dies alone.
But he doesn't die. But he doesn't die alone. He dies with one of the people who was closest to him, like without even knowing.
He gets head first
Until he finally knew it.
Yes. I'll talk about that in a second. But he dies alone because of the choices that he makes, and
at least he didn't die.
His tragedy is self-inflicted.
He didn't
die a fucking virgin like Luke.
He didn't die a virgin like Luke.
You see those biceps in Star Wars 3? He was sweaty.
He's a good-looking dude. Good-looking dude. So
not the best actor, but he's a great looking dude.
His first tragedy is being born in slavery, obviously wrong for unstated reasons, so he doesn't need to. And when he's taken to become a Jedi, he is nervous because he is leaving his mother for the first time at a young age. He's 9 when he has to leave his mom, and he just wants to liberate her out of slavery, but he doesn't have the means to do that. So he's going to become a Jedi with the intention of coming back and saving his mother.
Which you would think that the goddamn Jedi Order would be able to help out in that situation, but they were like,
check out the donation box or something.
Exactly.
No, I don't believe in currency.
Things against the Jedi Order, like the Jedi Order. Again,
this is just to add to his tragedy.
Yes. Can we have an episode on our gripes of the Jedi Order? Because the more I think about the Jedi Order, the less I like them. But that's a whole.
They deserve to be overthrown, but just not the way it happened. So he becomes a Jedi. He goes back to the planet to save his mother, and his mother's fucking dead. Like she's dying, and he can't save her because he wasn't fast enough. He wasn't strong enough. So he takes that as a personal failure. And instead of purely understanding that it's just the Sand People's fault for, murdering his mother, so he slaughters all the Sand People, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And
when they call that in The Mandalorian, it was like the literal like tragedy and night of something.
Oh, yeah. They talked about it, right? To where they were like, this whole village was like murdered.
The genocide.
Yeah. It was like a literal thing, like a huge portion of the population, like he just destroyed them all, like the native people.
And be like that. Don't kill his fucking mom, then we'll get.
Yeah, but genocide. Also that was the whole thing where like you shouldn't be doing that because you're a Jedi now. Like the Jedis are like this ascetic. The ascetic, I don't really know how to pronounce it. They're supposed to be like this.
They're supposed to be peacekeepers.
Peacekeeping monk-like, very stoic. They understand the universe and understand the Force.
There's no investment.
But then obviously you can see that he's being corrupted by the dark side.
Don't kill your mom. Don't kill his mom. That's the issue here.
Yeah, they should have killed his mom.
Obviously, he embraces the dark side and kills a fucking population. It'd be like that. Don't kill his mom. And then so he gets visions of his wife, his pregnant wife, dying in childbirth. And then he starts to form anxiety over his wife dying in childbirth because that's obviously tragic in itself. He's already lost his mother, and the next matriarch of his life is, potentially at risk. He is offered a solution, and it is a deal with the devil, which is another cool villain trope of like, they had intentions to do this, but then they just partnered with the wrong people to get where they wanted to go. And that's exactly what happens to Anakin. He teams up with Palpatine. Palpatine kind of overthrows the problematic Jedi Order, which is another story in itself. And on top of that, before this shit happens, Anakin gets a promotion without getting the salary boost that he deserves. He's put on the council, but he's not given the rank of the master. And so he's exploited.
Kill them all. No.
He's exploited for labor.
Like, I understand now.
He shouldn't have killed the younglings. Don't kill the younglings. Kill the elders.
That's why the Jedi Order is problematic.
No, that's another thing. Exactly. It's because he gets fucking... he gets exploited for his talents. His talents are clearly being shown, but also because he's kind of like, it's unfortunate that in the movies it comes off more as prissy because like it was supposed to be like, sometimes he's like, oh, I'm not a Jedi master, but it's not that. It's supposed to.
He was born exploited.
The idea is that he is again, exactly. He is exploited again. And he realizes like, oh, I'm not being, I'm not even being given the accolades for something that I clearly should be. All the while, just things that are convincing him to turn to, turning away from the Jedi Order and taking a more selfish approach, which is the entire point of the Sith.
To be fair, though,
Order
he was
like, Oh, absolutely. Plus, he killed an entire population of like Tuscans. Like they were probably like, yeah, you can't do that. You don't.
Aside from the revenge, he wasn't doing spice. You know, he wasn't doing that.
At least wasn't a drug dealer like the one Latino character in the new movies, which is Poe Dameron.
Exactly.
Anakin is a white mass murderer, and we all know they're fine. Yeah. They didn't do anything wrong.
He was easily forgiven.
He was in the lower levels of Coruscant, like doing literal like human trafficking, like they did in like Clone Wars. They like touched on that.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, it'd be like that.
Coruscant's super cyberpunk shit going on.
Yeah.
But he also becomes fascist. So continuing the story, Vader, he betrays his religion and he betrays, the Jedi. And there's a cycle here of Vader. Anakin is born in bondage from being a slave. He's kept in bondage by his relationships and ties to people.
Captain Bondage.
I also heard Captain Bondage.
And he's in bondage to the Jedi Council because, they are constantly expecting things of him, things he doesn't always agree with. And then Palpatine, obviously exploits him even more and his agenda. Palpatine doesn't even value Vader. He doesn't give a shit about him. He's just using him as a tool to wipe out the Jedi.
Just kidding.
Oh, yes. You know what? Darth Vader's a little bit of a whore.
And so through his rage, he lashes out at his wife, ultimately losing her in childbirth, which is, a self-fulfilling prophecy of the fear he had. And after that, he just becomes full of this self-hatred.
That is another trope, as a little side thing. That is another trope that I absolutely love is self-fulfilling prophecies like Oedipus or things like that.
Self.
Where they're like, you're going to kill your dad. And then he's like, oh, God, I should leave and not kill my dad. And then he fucking kills his dad. Like,
he kills dad.
And sorry. Bangs his mom. You're going to have sex with your mom, too. Sorry.
Bangs his mom, kills his dad. It happens. So Vader feels like he has nothing left after Padme dies because he doesn't know his children are born. And thankfully for him, there is a new hope. The child exists that can save him, and he becomes this fascist leader. Who really here's the thing I learned from TV Tropes. It's a great website you should check out if you at all love to like pick apart the tropes of your characters that you like.
Always.
One I learned about is called the glorified janitor, which is like really they're not in charge, but like they do all the shit. And Vader's that guy. He's not in charge.
He's a yes man.
Palpatine's the guy in charge. The Emperor's the guy in the charge. Vader is just the guy that's like middle management that occasionally chokes out employees because he's pissed at them. But really, he's always taking orders from Palpatine. Yeah. And, eventually Luke redeems him and he learns and remembers about self-sacrifice, that Luke was willing to die before killing Vader. And Vader's like, oh shit. Like, that's my goddamn son, like who barely knows me, but he loves me enough to, save me. And he's like, nah. I'm going to be a good guy again. He picks up Palpatine, eats him down a pit. It's a whole thing. And
apparently that didn't even fucking work. Thanks, J.J. Abrams.
I do not acknowledge that. So in death, Vader realizes like, oh shit, like I've committed light treason and I've done some bad things. But ultimately I see that, my son, my successor is the hero that the galaxy actually needs.
He had nothing to do with knowing that Luke either.
No, that's all Obi-Wan and
he's gonna take
other people.
He's gonna claim it.
Yeah, and then he dies. He becomes a Force ghost, and he hangs out with Obi-Wan and Yoda for the rest of his life.
That sounds
possibly more Jedi.
That sounds like a typical like kind of shitty dad. He was like, I did it too. No, you didn't.
That's my kid.
You didn't do anything.
Oh my God.
You didn't do anything.
But yeah, Vader's tragedy is one of like precaution of like literally just stop fucking up because you're afraid. Learn to embrace your fears and find a way to confront them in positive ways or healthy ways.
Instead of digging the grave.
His mother's death. Yeah, his mother's death is not his fault, but he blames himself for it. Like he kills his wife. Well, she dies because she lost the will to live. That's a whole other thing. He attacks his wife because, he loses himself in darkness.
Wait, what about Palpatine like stealing the life force?
That's not canon. That ain't real shit.
I like that more.
That's a fan
come on. That's sick.
No,
that's sick.
Okay, if we're getting to the fanfics, Paul, my favorite theory is that having Jedi children is so demanding on the body that, through having twins that are both strong Force users, and she's already going through the trauma of losing her husband, that she didn't lose the will to live because she's sad. She lost the ability to live because it's so draining on her. That's my preferred theory. I don't like that Palpatine is like this all-powerful devil.
No, because he's able to connect people through the Force and like diags through the Force. So I feel
Maybe
like
we don't know that.
kind of
Speaking
like
of
took
devils.
that energy from them. Yes,
It's true. He does do that in episode 9, but
we do know that
those have their own issues.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we do.
I appreciate the
That's
tragedies
the hardest
of
part
these
is that
characters.
we have to go off the canon given to us.
I don't have to actually. The tragedies of these characters are all lessons that like teach us. They're all warnings, of like tragedy will happen to you, but the way you react separates you from the heroes to the villains. And those are my 3 characters, and how they do
Those are
some shit
Some
and
good
choose
nerdy
violence.
characters.
Thank you. I am a nerd.
Speaking of devils, though,
Heyo.
I'm gonna cover
Give it to
Cruella
us.
de Vil, who is not an anti-hero. She might be in the new movie coming out. She is in Once Upon a Time a little bit, but Cruella de Vil is just that. She's cruel and she's evil. She decides to kill puppies because puppy fur is softer than older
Okay,
dog
that's
fur.
disgusting.
Understandable.
Like faux fur.
She fucking sucks. Why do we love her so much?
She's such a fashion
know.
icon, though.
Yo, yeah, I was gonna literally say like fashion
Originating in
icon.
1956 from Dodie Smith's novel The 101 Dalmatians. 1956, so it's 65 years old? I don't know, math. She also appears
Quick
in
maths.
Walt Disney's 17th animated feature film, voiced by Betty Lou Gerson. 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure, which I did not know was a thing, came out in 2002, voiced by Suzanne Bakesley. And my favorite depiction of her in Disney's live-action 101 came out in 1996, and 102 Dalmatians came out in 2000, portrayed by the incredible Glenn Close, who
Hey, shouts out to Glenn
she's
Close.
actually a producer on the new Cruella de Vil movie coming out. I love that for her.
That's good.
She has so many fingers and so many pies.
and
Like Glenn
as
Close been
she
doing
should.
shit forever.
She baked those pies years ago. She should have
like
the first
She can put that
slices.
finger in. That's true.
She can just
Reap
do
the
it.
benefits of the pie.
Double dip.
Like I said,
No.
she comes off as like, not
Double
Glenn Close, but Cruella de Vil comes off as like an anti-hero in Once Upon a Time, which 19-year-old me would recommend highly. Haven't really watched it since then, but I loved it. I fell deep into it. There's 7 seasons of it. It's on Disney Plus. And then the new movie comes out in May 20 something, and that's going to be
Assuming super pandemic because it
truly.
doesn't come back.
Hopefully, it comes to
true.
streaming, so we don't have to all die trying to watch Cruella de Vil this summer. That one's going to be
Wow.
Emma Stone, and Emma
Driving.
Stone, everything she touches is amazing. So she's going to do a good job.
You are not goddamn wrong. Emma sounds awesome.
Yeah, honestly.
I'll just talk about the book version of Cruella de Vil because I feel like that's who the author intended her to be, and that's just an evil person. She's a spoiled little rich kid. Her family is in debt to tons of people in the English country where her house is, nicknamed Hell Hall, because she's evil, of course.
Yeah.
Great name.
Pretty close to Deville, too.
You get it? Do you
In
understand?
all her incarnations, Cruella kidnaps 97 or 99 Dalmatians. I don't know what the discrepancy is.
Can't keep it
She
around
chooses
100.
she chooses to skin puppies when they're young because, like I said, older dogs have coarser hair, which does not sell as well in the fur fashion industry.
Jesus.
The 101 Dalmatian describes Cruella as the last of her prosperous family who appears wealthy but is in fact heavily in debt, like I just said. She's married to She's married to a furrier who's just someone who skins animals and sells fur coats.
Ew.
His first name is
Furry.
never mentioned in any books or in the movies at all. When
Does not
asked
matter.
in the book, when asked what her married name is, Cruella retorts that in contrast to the usual patriarchal tradition, she has made her husband adopt her surname as his own in an
Wow.
effort to carry on his family. And I put a little hot emoji next to that.
That is hot.
He's amazing. I know. And this
Definitely
book came out in the
top dog.
1950s, so this is when that
Hem
shit
dog.
did not happen. So I put he's a
yeah.
major simp supplying her with the
Dang.
jewels and fur coats.
Love the simping.
A simp
Oh,
before
yeah.
simps were cool.
Splendid daddy.
And then I put down fun facts. All of her food is strangely colored and tastes strongly of pepper. She never finds anything too warm, so she constantly stokes a roaring fire and complains of being cold despite the unbearable heat.
Well, girl probably has anemia.
Honestly.
Yeah. She needs more iron in her
She
diet.
owns a Persian cat, one of those big, fluffy, flat-faced cats, whom she detests and only keeps because of the cat's value. In 2002, Forbes ranked Disney's Cruella as the 13th most wealthiest fictional characters. Forbes magazine,
Wow.
a real magazine that reports on real shit.
They also
Nobody can write for Forbes.
Yeah, they also report on. They also have interns that report on Disney movies.
And how much money they make. And she was also listed as the 39th greatest villain in American cinema in AFI's 100 Years, 100 Heroes and Villains.
Nice. I'm curious to see who they think the number one villain is.
I did not look that up, sir. You'll have to.
I'm gonna look that shit up. Who was the company?
AFI. AFI's 100 Years of Heroes and Villains.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Number one. Oh, as Justin leaves, what an asshole.
Who's that?
I'll save it.
He's like, I don't want to know. Eve, what the fuck?
What did he do?
Sorry, I just
Wait, what happened?
I forgot they were there. No, I forgot they were there. And then
wait, where'd Justin go?
And then I was just like, I thought that was a tongue.
Yeah, they eat
Justin
it like a lizard.
like a lizard. I just forgot they were there. That's why I'm like, oh god.
Where'd Justin go?
You just
Sir, he asked the question.
I know, and I was ready for it too.
This is chattery. Like he's just like, I got a full bow cleanse.
That was literally my last fact on Cruella de Vil too.
Wow.
Who is this?
So I guess if we want to talk about the list, it was written in 2003. So, anything
really,
that came after
there's
2003 can't be compared.
Villains. Yeah.
Honestly, like Thanos would be on this list for villains, and the heroes should be Captain America and Iron Man. Like obviously those characters existed before 2003, but the MCU was the thing that made them.
Well, don't
famous.
blame me. My sources were DisneyFandom.com and Wikipedia.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you for citing them.
Quite updated. I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's ran by a bunch of nerds, and I love how dedicated nerds are to like archiving and giving historical content. Justin, we got a bone to pick with you. You asked a question that you left your own goddamn podcast.
Wait, I asked a question?
Yeah, you're like, who's number one on the list? Bye.
I really had to pee.
Number one on the heroes list is Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird, which interesting idea of like hero, but then it's Indiana Jones, then James Bond. Those are the top three. Get Atticus Finch, Indy, and James Bond in a fucking room.
Okay.
For the villains,
the 1980s one though.
For the villains, not a bad pick, but one I wouldn't put is Hannibal Lecter, portrayed by Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs.
That's the number one villain.
Well played.
That's
villain.
number one.
Well played.
Yeah, and then number two is Norman Bates, portrayed by Anthony Perkins in Psycho. And number three, motherfucking Darth Vader, by David Prowse and James Earl Jones together. Specifically for the film Empire Strikes Back, which is true, because in A New Hope, he's not that interesting.
Yeah, he like the way he just shoulders only. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all he does is fly and be angry.
Hey.
And also stab or slash Obi-Wan.
Return of the Jedi when he literally flies.
Villains
down.
are fun.
He
Villains
glides.
are the fucking vibe.
He glides. Yeah, sorry, Cruella de Vil. What is her fucking arc? Like, what are we supposed to learn from her? Don't be a capitalist.
That's what I mean. There is I guess like she is considered the pop culture icon of like greed and
okay,
yeah,
that's fair.
So I guess you kind of learn like don't just be overcome by greed, but she's just a bad person. She's a bad mama jamma. Like
just get vegan products and don't be like her.
So she's a good because there is that whole other layer of villains because a lot of the villains that we've previously talked about have been villains that are tragic heroes that you can find sympathy with sometimes. But sometimes they're just villains that are just fucking evil.
Sometimes
they're just fucking
you name
bad.
your daughter Cruella de Vil, and she turns out to be a cruel devil.
Person. Yeah,
born to be wild.
And that's the thing is like that is a whole other layer of villains that are just as interesting static characters as they are dynamic characters, right? So those are like static characters. They're like this is me. This is who I am, and then things happen to them. And whereas a dynamic character would be someone who's like, here is me here, and then they change into something else later.
I think even more interesting is a static villain that remains evil, like Azula from Last Airbender.
Yeah,
like
she's
you
great
feel
too.
bad for her.
She has depth, but she's still static.
But she's still like she chooses evil at the end of the day.
She's bad.
And I think this is an interesting cultural shift in entertainment that we're seeing. So if we go back to the 90s, all these animated movies, your Tarzans, your 101 Dalmatians, et cetera, they always have like the 2D villain is like,
like
it's the evil villain people.
Like Clayton. Clayton is just a bad guy. He's just a bad guy.
And now Disney and all their I want money reasons are taking these characters that and they're like, but what if you liked them? And that's what Maleficent was, and that's what Cruella is, and that's what Joker is.
Sorry, everybody. I gotta throw that in there. The Maleficent movies are good.
Oh, of course, it's Angelina Jolie.
I haven't seen them.
She could do
the what? Oh, those are fine. Yeah, I like those.
So yeah, it's definitely a new type of movie that we're saying of like, what if villain was sympathetic?
It's almost worrisome to me to sympathize with villains to an extent. She still killed puppies.
To an extent, yeah. Yeah, because I don't think she deserves a redemption arc, which is a whole different topic of like villains that get redemption arc. Even Darth Vader got a redemption arc, and I'm like, dude, you fucking killed so many people.
Like
fascist
that's
mass
like the
murderer.
Kylo Ren too,
That's the whole,
fascist
like-
mass murderer.
Exactly. That's like the whole. That's why I have issues with Joseph Campbell's like the hero's journey and the Jesus Messiah complex, because I'm like, dude, you can't just be born again Christian or whatever and go to heaven. Like, nah,
Jesus
dude,
said he can.
fucking die. Yeah, you're like, you can't, dude. Jesus died on the sins or died on the cross for a reason, so you got to sin. Just might as well.
Might as well.
It's like a get jail free card.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
no, because
But I'm like,
that's
you know
what it
what?
is. He paid for he's already paid for your ticket. You know what I mean? Like, just in case you crash a car, or like he pays for your insurance. So if you crash a car, like it's not your fault. It didn't matter because
yeah, but if you live in sin, then you go to
100
hell.
But there's the thing,
that's the thing,
Jason,
like, you
is
can't just
there.
be like,
That's the
whoops.
paradoxal
What is sin?
part because, well, not only big one.
Sin is defined.
What is sin?
Being gay,
Not
I
necessarily
guess.
that, but it's like if you ask for repentance, then you're forgiven regardless. You're always forgiven. That's
In
like the number one
Catholicism,
thing. So
at
that's
least.
I mean, it's just like that Family Guy joke that's like Osama bin Laden, like right before they killed him. He's like, accept Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, and then he gets shot, and then he's in heaven.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I'm getting. That's why I'm like the redemption arc. I'm like, dude, I don't like that. Where it's
I
like,
would
yeah, redeem
argue
yourself,
that
but I'm like,
sin
to what
is not
extent?
defined. Just Jason, who is below.
I mean, we have 10 commandments, and then we also have Jesus' word in all the book of Matthew, where he talks about like what sin is.
There's 13 commandments.
I just gave you
Never
sources.
met the man.
No, absolutely not.
where does
There's
Sniper
13
that?
There's 13 tablets. There's 3 tablets or something. There's like a lot more commandments, and then fucking Noah, being a clumsy ass fuck, just dropped them all. He's like, whoops, we don't need to know.
Unicorns.
There was a
about
flood.
those 13.
There was
We
a
could've
big
had
flood.
unicorns.
There's property damage.
No, not Noah. I'm sorry, Moses. Moses and from
There was a bush on fire. There was a fire.
That was
Things
way
were
before.
bad.
On that note, this was Life and Lore, the podcast that has a lot to say about everything and nothing.
Today, yeah.
I've been your host, Chrysanthemum. Of course, you can find me all those places I listed before. If you can't stop looking, next to me is a string and a can away, little Paulito.
Hey, y'all, I'm Paul. You catch me on
Hey,
this
yes,
episode. Catch
yes.
me on all the other episodes if you want. And the next one, down to my bottom.
It's me, the bottom.
Hey,
Hello,
you're
it's
below
it's
too.
Justin again. Talking through this can, coming at you live and high five. Thank you so much for listening to this episode that was all over the gosh darn place because
Beautiful.
it was great to talk about some nerdy shit. And villains
We have
are
opinions
awesome.
on Sundays.
Why don't you send us some of your favorite villains to our social medias that Jason's going to plug, or you can send them directly to me on the DMs at
Hell yeah.
Justin Marquez and everything. Jason, I'm taking the tin can and I am punching it over to you, so you can just put one to one ear and one up to your mouth, and then talk to yourself like an old phone.
Is this thing on? Hello, hey everybody! Thank you for being part of my nerdy rants as always. I'm very passionate about things that don't exist.
Absolutely.
You can follow me on social media at Kessel Rum on Twitter, Kessel_Rum. You can follow us on Instagram at Life Lore Podcast. You can go on Twitter and it's Life and Lore. You can email us at lifeandlore@protonmail.com.
Bang, bang,
Send us your thoughts, send us your recommendations. If you have a topic maybe you want us to talk about for an hour and however long this episode is, please let us know. We have some ideas that we're going to do for our next little season of episodes, and we hope that you guys get to enjoy those very soon. But, yeah. Thank you for hosting, Chrissy. I had a ball.
Yeah, I appreciate it,
Close
Chrissy.
your door. Put on your gas mask.
Old ball. Yeah, because I'm honestly going to I'm going to speed up this intro. Outro.
I like how
It's like
I like
7 minutes.
I like how long it is.
I'm into it, yeah.
I like the long.
Ray, Bears.
Oh, God. Bears. I need to add bear sounds. I think there's bear sounds.
Yeah.
They're bear sounds, right? Yeah, there it is.
There are bear sounds. They're all
Bye, everybody. We still love.
Oh, I love you, South Korea.
We still love South Korea.
South Korea.
So cool.
Hopefully they're drinking still. The one dude.
Stop Asian hate. Black Lives Matter. Punch your local racist. Call out your local abuser.
Capitalism.
Fuck capitalism in its gross state.
Don't
We
be
need
here.
police reform and or
Yeah,
abolition.
Chrissy's just punching all these problems. Like, and we love you all, people listening to this point.
Man, South Korea's so pretty. I want to go there.
Dude, let's go to Seoul sometime. It'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool. We're talking about how vacation is sometimes.
Yo, they got this national park that's kind of a ripoff of ours.
I'm stopping the recording.
Oh, yeah.
Stop it.
And goodbye.